All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hey, Jordan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited to be here today.
Same. Yeah, we're so excited to have you on today, and welcome everyone to our second Adobe Podcast Premium event. Thank you so much for being part of our community. We're so excited to be offering these events to you and just be sharing this great knowledge from Jordan, today's guest from the Adobe Express team. Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jordan. I work on the Adobe Express team, as Harmony said. So if you all have questions after this, half of my job is genuinely being like a friendly face of Adobe and answering questions on Reddit and Twitter and things. So feel free to message me anytime. And then the other half of my job is like learning about Express, what's new, sharing that info out. So I personally love Adobe Express because in my pre-Adobe life, I was a small business owner starting in like 2011, and that eventually led to a magazine that I self-published and also a podcast. So this is like very cool because I don't have a design background, but I had to make a lot of stuff all the time, like all the promo, all the social graphics, all types of things. And so products like Express are great for me and other folks who like are creative but aren't necessarily graphic designers. So hopefully if anyone in the chat resonates with that, let me know, and hopefully I'll share some things today that are helpful for all of you.
Amazing. Well, we're super excited to get into it. And so for folks that are just joining, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And we're just going to take care of a couple housekeeping items before we get started. But for folks that don't know me, my name's Harmony Jarudek. I lead customer education and success for the Adobe Podcast team. And as for today, it's all about podcast cover art made easy. And so most of today is going to be an Adobe Express walkthrough with Jordan, but we'll definitely save time for some Q&A at the end, and then we'll wrap it up. And then if you do have questions, please go ahead and use the YouTube chat for comments and questions, and we'll throw those questions up on the screen. And if you have to drop early today, no worries. We are recording, and it will be made available in our live stream replays. And then for folks that are just getting started with Adobe Podcast, you may have questions about how to get started, or if you need access to our guides. Those can all be accessed from podcast.adobe.com. And then join our community. There's a lot of great folks that are sharing workflow tips and asking questions. So again, if you're new, please connect with us on our community board. So as for what's up for today, Jordan's going to cover all things Express. So how to design podcast cover art. You'll be able to customize colors, fonts, and branding. This is great because we were actually just talking about templates earlier. So you'll be able to templatize all of that. Adapt your cover art into social media assets. In addition to templating, you can also do a bunch of scheduling as well. And then something I'm super excited for, and I've had a chance to play with it a little bit, is the clip maker. So be able to turn in some like really nice magic moments into snackable moments with video clips, and then be able to take your current designs from other software into Express. And that should be a pretty packed hour. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm excited to get started. This is going to be great.
Amazing. Okay. Oh, and welcome, Maurice. Starting out a podcast, and I need design help. Amazing.
Perfect.
Great. Well, you're in the right place. Great. Well, I think we're gonna, Jordan, I'll have you share your screen too. Oh, perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. This is my little Express intro. I already gave my intro, but I also wanted to share my social handles. I'm sure that you could always reach out to Harmony and she can help you find me. But this QR code is like my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Twitter, my everything. And very sincerely, like even after this, this live recording, I am still extremely available. So if you're watching a replay of this or watching live and then start playing around with Express and have questions later, please anytime feel free to let me know your questions and I'll try to help. And with that, let's dive into Adobe Express. This is the homepage right here. There's also a mobile app. So if you prefer creating on your phone or tablet, you can do that. But I'll be sharing the desktop today. You can sign in with your Adobe ID, which is great because this is part of the Creative Cloud. So if you already have projects that you've started in other platforms, you can sync them here. Or if you're starting from scratch, that is totally cool. So a few quick things on the homepage. You can start from your own content, like I mentioned. Something that I love about Adobe Express, I'm going to go to this import from other apps option here, is that if you're a pro designer and you already have a podcast design or a layout in Illustrator, Photoshop, you probably wouldn't in InDesign, or a PDF, you can actually start with that project and drop it into Express, and it will become an editable Express template. So if you want to use the features in Express, but you've already made something in another product, don't worry. You don't have to remake everything. You can just drop it right here and then go ahead and use the rest of the fun features that we'll show today. There are also on the homepage, you can access things like quick actions. So this is, for example, the QR code that I just shared, or if you have a clip from, maybe you have a video podcast and you want to convert that to a GIF, or as Harmony mentioned, and we'll show a little bit later, things like the clip maker. So these are just like one button things that you may want to do to create your social content or create, anything promo or anything related to your podcast. You can access all of that right on the homepage in the quick actions. And then we have templates. So I love using templates. I saw, Maurice in chat has said that they need design help. Adobe Express is great for making things quickly and easily and giving you everything you need to get started, whether you have a design background or not. Like I said, I don't have a design background, so I love scrolling. Like on the homepage, you can just scroll a bunch of the new templates. If you are a designer, and this is also just a nice place to get some inspo. And then you can search as well. So we'll just start by searching something like podcast. And there will be tons of template options that we can choose from. It's going to search all my files and, all stock and everything. I want to just look at templates here. And like I said, tons of resources of templates that you can get started with. So maybe you want a refresh on your podcast look. Maybe you are starting a new podcast and you're not sure exactly how you want it to look. You can just scroll and scroll through all the inspo, figure out what kind of style you're looking for, what you maybe want on the homepage. If you want, a long title, a short title, if it's going to be you and a guest, if you don't want, photos, you want something more graphic. There are lots and lots of options that you can choose from, and we're going to dive into that in just a second. But before we do, on top of everything that you can get to from the Express homepage, something that I think is really valuable, especially for creating something like a podcast, like a video series, like a company, a brand, is setting up a brand in Express. So right here on the left, I can go over to brands. I do a lot of demos, so I have a lot of brands here that are like imaginary brands, but I do actually have a brand set up for myself for the podcast that I used to run. So it was called Sartorial Geek. It was a nerdy podcast featuring nerdy creators. And so you can add all of the different components of your brand so they're easy to access, so that all of your content, your episode graphics, your social posts, so they all look the same. Probably some of you know about branding, but it's really important to have a consistent look and feel so that folks know, what they're what they're getting into when they see yours.
This is so cool. I love seeing brands. One kind of question quickly popped up in my mind. One thing that we heard at a podcast conference earlier this year is they might be a solo podcaster just starting out, but they're hiring someone to help with design so one of the things I love about Express is that it seems very collaborative. So could I share this brand with someone that I'm working with that's helping me with design?
Yeah, absolutely. So in all projects and also brands, there's this share button. So you can share, I share this with myself because I have two Adobe Express accounts, but you can share either if you are the design lead and you maybe have like an assistant or an intern that's helping you populate your episode images, or opposite, if you hire out a designer, they can build this for you or give you like the brand kit and guide, and it's so easy to populate it yourself. You can either just go to all the different sections, hit the plus, and then, add your logos, your colors, your fonts. You can also just head to add and add whatever you want. So yeah, Express is really great for working together, which is lovely. And again, things like adding the logos, adding all your colors, making sure your fonts are consistent across all your projects. And yeah, like Harmony, like you said, this is especially helpful if there are multiple people working in the same thing, because you want to make sure you're all using like the same version of your logo and the exact same color and the same fonts. And
Awesome.
you can even save templates. Like I'll just give an example of the way that my episode image works, and then I'll show how you can like make your own template. But when I was creating, this is how I templatized my project, my podcast episode image. So like the Sartorial Geek was my kind of logo mock-up. When I have my magazine has like the same lockup, just in a different orientation. So keeping that branding consistent. I have this consistent background color. And then with this templatized style of creating episode images, it's super easy to just change out the my guest name, change out the episode image. And then with my photo here, just hit replace and swap out the photos of each new guest. I also did like a fun little effect on the photos, like using my brand colors. I would kind of cycle through the rainbow. But that is how you can use this is how I used my brand setup to like have one look and then just easily swap out for all the different images. I also wanted to share a few other resources. There is Adobe Fonts, which if you're not a branding expert and you're starting from scratch, you can definitely look at the font recommendations in Express, but you can also scroll different fonts here, go to recommendations and see like font pairings. So if you're brand new to design, this is a really nice resource to just like see what you're kind of into, see fonts that look good together, because that's usually my downfall is like pairing. So you can see how things look together, which is really lovely. And the other resource I wanted to share is Adobe Color, because I had, the brand color palette that I had. You can play around with the color wheel, but you can also explore different color palettes and look at trending colors. So just wanted to share those two resources. If you're setting up your brand for the first time, this can kind of help you like decide the mood of your podcast. Maybe it's like more modern or more techy, or like talking about, life at home, like whatever kind of energy you're bringing to your podcast, you can search in the trends just to give you some inspo. But let's head back to Express. So I showed my brand setup. And yeah, if you want to create your own, you just head to create and you can start a brand new one and share it, as we mentioned. So that is all a great way to get set up. And I showed my podcast template, how I used it, but we're going to go with just a template straight from Express. I saved a few to my favorites. So here's like one that is, I think this is a really fun podcast template if you don't want your photo. But I always like having my photo in my projects just to kind of make them a little more like just I like adding the personal element. I think that's like a nice touch personally, but you can do absolutely whatever you want. And when you're choosing a template, it's good to think about, like I mentioned, what you want to highlight in your episode art. So maybe you want a huge title. Maybe the title of all of your like the episode titles is really important. So you want that to be huge. Maybe you are always going to have a guest. So you want to choose something that has 2 images. And the nice thing about templates is like you can edit them as you want. But it's nice to start with something that's like a little closer to what you're looking for. So here's the editor of Adobe Express. Thankfully, it's like a very easy to use tool. So a lot of the editing options are here on the left, and they kind of do what you think they would. Like you can upload your own files, you can add text, you can add different shapes and different elements. A nice call out is that Adobe Express has access to Adobe Stock. It's already integrated. So you can pull from Adobe Stock photos, stock video, which is going to come in handy when we turn our episode image into social graphics. And there's also audio, which is nice. If you want some like pre-licensed music, you can play around with that in Express. Over on the right, we have all of the layers, which if you've worked in like Photoshop, Illustrator, you're going to recognize layers, and it works the same way in Express. You can just move things around. And then across the top is what I'm excited to dive into after we get our episode image the way we want. We can lean into some of these like more helping with productivity options across the top. So this is a podcast template, and I'm just going to start editing it to make it, feel like mine. So I'm going to change out the name. Instead of Your Daily Podcast, I'm going to call this the Let's Chat Podcast. And clicking into any of the text boxes here, we can see like the colors, the different fonts. This is where it's really nice to have a brand saved, because I can go into my brand fonts here. For some reason, it's not popping up for me, but I should be able to access all of my brands, and then the saved fonts will be like right at the top. Same thing with colors. As you can see, the brand I was using has all the different color options here, and I could just cycle through and choose from any of those, or, as we're building a new brand, it can be anything we want. I actually do really like the colors we started with, so I'm just going to keep them for this project. But yeah, you can absolutely go ahead and change all of the colors to match exactly what you're looking for. For me, fresh episode is a fun way to like say this, but I always like having the actual episode number. So that's something that I would change here. And then swapping out the topic. What are we going to talk about? In this podcast, we'll talk about new Adobe products. So for episode 0, I'll say intro to Adobe Express. And, easy to adjust things, move things around to make them fit into the template here. I personally, it's interesting to have the date if that's important to your podcast. Like maybe you're doing something super timely, you could always keep that. But I'll swap this out to be maybe highlight the host. So as the host, I'll type in my name here. I'll do my full name, Jordan Danae Ellis. And again, really easy to just kind of adjust this, make sure it fits. And these are all the little adjustments that you can make to create your podcast. Make sure the episode image looks the way you want. And then last up, I love this stock photo, but this is my podcast. I want this to represent me. So clicking on any of the images here, I can just hit replace. I'll replace this with an upload and go into where I have all of my profile pictures saved. And I think, let's go ahead and use my kind of standard headshot here. I also love that as I replace it, it's going to keep the same like effects. So the original image was in black and white. This is staying in black and white. And, this looks okay, but I want it to keep the spirit of the original template. So I want to knock out this background here. And Express has an automatic remove background button, which is great. I can just hit that, and now it's going to, give me the look of the first image that we had. I can resize it if I want, but that actually looks pretty great. And so, this is a pretty solid episode image. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this looks odd, and I can't believe just how quickly you did this. That's always been my struggle with design tools, is just diving in and be just getting a couple elements in place. So I love that you literally whipped this up in 5 minutes. Quick question for you, Jordan.
Yeah.
So let's say you've created this beautiful piece of cover art. What if I kind of wanted to A/B test, if you mentioned it kept the black and white look, what if I wanted to swap, create a couple different versions with some different color swatches? Is that fairly easy?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that's great about Express is that you can actually create a bunch of different pages in each file. So I can duplicate this page or add a new one. Now I have page 2, and then I can go into the image here. I'll go into effects. It was grayscale. I can make one that's full color. I can do it again. Let's duplicate this into a third page here, and maybe I want to try out, there are tons of different color filters. This can get kind of silly, but there's a colorize option. So maybe I want to see what that looks like. Yeah. So now, again, super quickly, you can have 3 different versions, which A/B testing is great. You could also turn this into a social not campaign, but ask your audience. You could post a carousel, which one do you like the most, and get some traction on your podcast before you get started. So that's a great way to get folks interested, for sure.
That's awesome. And then if I wanted to for sharing, let's say this on different social platforms, it looks like it's pretty easy to go in and resize based on where I'm sharing this to.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is I feel like most podcast episodes are a square. So we have this now. And if I want to save this as a template that I can use for just the actual episode cover, I can go up to share, hit make a template. And then, I'll change this to let's chat podcast template or episode template. Ooh. This is also a great place, as we were mentioning before, if you are working with multiple people, you can add different locks if you want. So again, if you're sharing this with someone else and kind of asking them to help you make all of your episode images, you can say, you can only pick from these brand colors, only these brand fonts. You can't add new layers, or you can keep them all turned off. Depends on how much you trust the folks you're working with. And I can save it back to my brand, which is great because that's going to give me this template that I can just use over and over in case I mess with the original. I'll always have kind of that base. So that's the episode image. But if we want to take the same thing and turn this into content that we can share across social, this handy dandy resize button right at the top is going to resize this into whatever we want. So there are some presets here, maybe I want this to be an Instagram story and a Facebook story. I also want this to be the new Instagram portrait mode, which is 1080 by 1350. So you can add custom sizes too. If you wanted maybe this as an email banner that you're sending out, or maybe you want to print this out and make a flyer. You can do things like that too.
Nice.
And just by hitting duplicate and resize, it's going to change all those sizes. And what I love is it's keeping it all in the same project. So we have the variations of our episode image here. We have all the different social sizes. And then if I want to make any adjustments, maybe I always kind of, when I post on stories, having I think it's kind of cute to have like a place where the link is going to go, or if I wanted to, add different elements to the different sizes here, like swap things out, I can.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's a really handy way to take this one thing and then turn it into all the different sizes that you might need for social.
I love that. And that's so nice that it's all grouped in the same project. That makes it super easy to stay organized and then kind of like, week 1, week 2, week 3. And I love that.
There's another super handy tool for, again, like taking the one episode image or episode, hero image and then turning it into all the different episode covers. This is relatively new. It's called bulk create. So if you're very organized and you have maybe an Excel sheet of like your upcoming episodes, you can head to bulk create. So here I'm going to, I've done this ahead of time. I've created an Excel sheet, which you can't see yet, but I created an Excel sheet of episode title, episode number, the episode title, and then the different guests. And then it's just in 3 different columns as a CSV. So with this bulk create option, I can click into all of those different like matching components. So one is episode image. So I'll click on, episode number, click on that and connect that to episode number. And then we also have topic here. So I'll connect that to topic. And then who my guest is, like the with who I'm talking with. So this is, again, great if you're super organized and you want to knock out like 6, 10, 20 episode covers at once. If I hit next, it's going to automatically take that info and fill it in. So I have episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the different titles and all the different guests. And then I'll create those pages also in the same project. So I might want to, move things around a little bit depending on like the length of the title, or just to kind of center things. But this is a really nice way to be able to make a lot of different episode images really fast. And again, like you'll probably want to go tweak these a little bit, but just doing those little adjustments is so much faster than making all of these from scratch. So that is one of my favorite things. I love this.
This is amazing. Like this is such a time saver and such a huge unlock for people that are trying to plan, a whole season at once. So guys, like you got to try this if you haven't already. Open up Express and follow along. Because these are great tips from Jordan.
Yeah, it's just right here in the bulk create. So again, if you're super organized and have an Excel sheet, you are you're golden. Another thing that we can do to like kind of make this fancy for social, there are lots of social is like leaning towards video. So you can do a couple different things here. Actually, let's go into the like more of a story size. If we wanted to, for example, add some animation, which is a super easy way to just add a little bit of movement to turn this into like a reel on Instagram and Facebook, for example, clicking into the title here or clicking on, honestly, anything, there's an animation tab, and then you can really easily add some animation. So this is text. We could add it as like a typewriter, and we automatically have this little timeline down here. Could also, I'll just zoom in so we can see, could also maybe I want to grab a few of these different stars and do like a little wiggle animation. I can have this one, for example, like spin if I want. And all the animations also have customized settings. So I can like turn it up, turn down the intensity, play with like the personality of it, change the direction. So again, like super easy ways to turn this podcast static image into something with just like a little hint of movement, which is cute. We can also, the way I did in my intro slide, you probably wouldn't necessarily have this for your guests unless you ask them. But if you have a video of yourself, like I took this 3-second video of me just like waving that I use all the time. I'm going to use it again here. Something that's really nice about Express is that you can combine a bunch of different things. So we like started with a graphic, added in some animation. We can also add in some video without being pros in any of those things. Like I'm not a video expert, I'm not an animation expert, but I can hit this photo here, tap on replace. I'll replace with upload and head into my little waving video here. So again, it's going to do the same thing, keep the black and white. But I just like the photo, I want to knock out this background. It's just uploading and I'll hit that. Then we can hit remove background even on video, which is nice. So this is like a cool way to really level up your graphics for social. And just going to take a second.
And Jordan, we see a question here. I'm going to throw it up on screen here. Is this all free on Adobe Express, like what you're showing us?
A lot of this is free. The premium marker is this kind of crown here. So like, for example, in templates, you can see which templates are available for free and which ones are available on premium. Same thing with like stock images. And you can see what is like, I'm on the premium account. You can see what is available where, but a lot of this is available on the free account. I don't fully remember the exact list of which features are, but especially if you're uploading your own designs, uploading your own photos, like obviously all of that is free. So yeah, you can do a whole lot of this on the free account. And if you already have Creative Cloud, Adobe Express Premium is included. So it may already be in your plan. You can find that out by signing in and seeing if you have access or not. That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy, for the question. And just zooming out a little bit, as Jordan mentioned, if you're already paying for Creative Cloud, you'll have access to this. You don't have to pay any additional. Also, if you're already paying for Adobe Podcast Premium, the amazing thing is that you're automatically going to get access to Adobe Express Premium and vice versa. So it's kind of like you have these two tools like baked into one, and you can kind of seamlessly go from one to the other. But yes, there will always be a free plan, and then there will always be a premium plan. So it's pretty amazing, like what you can get started with on the free plan. Like my dad was trying it out for the first time pretty recently. He's like, I can't believe all of this is free.
That's so awesome. What was your dad making?
He was making actually he's a musician, so he had needed to make some cover art for a new album. So I was like,
cool.
Use Express for this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and you can absolutely try it out for free, and it'll let you know what is what's in premium. But yeah, you can play with a lot of it for free, which is great.
Awesome.
And just going back to, this is what our new little animated video looks like. So again, like being able to take just a static, we started with a static episode image, and now we have, I'll go ahead and zoom out so we can see the whole thing. Now we have something that can easily be a reel, or could even post this, on TikTok or as a video story. You can go nuts with video as well. Like I like using stock video as a background. So this is like one of my tried and true. I just need paper. I really like things that are like textures. That one's fun too. I always use this just like paper texture here. But the thing that is really fun about it is I can use this, I could send it to the back and use it as my background. So you could play with adding video that way. Oops, did not get it all the way back. Where did you go? Here we go. There's so many layers in this one. So I can do something like that. But what I actually want to do is play with a blend mode, which if you use Photoshop, you will, you'll know blend modes. There we go. So this is covering everything, but I can actually go ahead and hit something like screen or multiply and turn the opacity down a little bit. So this is just going to give me like a really fun, make this a little bit shorter. There we go. So I'm still in it. Perfect. This is just going to give me like a really fun, just another way to play with motion. If that's a little too much, I could always turn down the speed. So there are lots and lots of ways to take your static episode image and add like a video background, add a video component um, to your photo, add animation, lots and lots of ways to get this ready for social. And then the last thing is that once we have it, I feel like the easiest thing to do is to make your social content and then not actually post it. So Express is trying to help you out with that, where I can download this. I can download all the pages in my project together, play with the different video resolution sizes and choose the format here. But I can schedule this directly to social media from Express with the share option. So the same place I can make a template, I can also share directly to social. So this is lovely because, again, I can like make sure that I actually post the things that I am promoting my podcast with here. I can choose Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, TikTok, and it looks like my LinkedIn may be expired, but we have LinkedIn as well. And so for this video, I think this would be great for Facebook and Instagram. Instagram, we can post, a reel or a story. So I'll choose a reel because this is a video. Looks like it's still uploading. If it doesn't, then something's gone wrong. Let's try just the static one for now. I'll post this to Facebook as well. So I'll go up to share to social. Let's just do Facebook and Instagram for this. Cool. And I'll do a regular post. So here I can add alt text, add a first caption if you want to maybe like share the link to your episode image in the first caption. My favorite part of the scheduler is that if you don't like copywriting, I don't like copywriting, there is a built-in caption generator. So you can take a prompt like a new podcast episode alert. Check out, what is this episode? Check out our latest episode talking about Adobe Express. Perfect. And so if you don't want to necessarily write a flashy caption, but you definitely need one with the caption generator, this model is automatically trained for social as well. So it's giving me little emojis. It's giving me hashtags. I can make any edits I want. Like, I'm not a huge hashtag person, so I'll just delete those. And, if I read it and maybe I don't love that sentence or I want to add something new, you can totally do that. I can also preview what this will look like on the different platforms. So, sometimes things look different depending on which platform you're posting on. It's nice that I can get that view ahead of time. And going into the calendar, maybe I'll have this, you'll have an actual podcast cadence, but maybe I'll just have this go out tomorrow morning. I'm going to save this as a draft so no one thinks that I'm starting this new podcast, because I am hopefully starting a new one soon, but this is not going to be called this. And I'll save this as a draft and add it to the calendar here. So with that, I can view the calendar here. I can also view it from the homepage in the schedule button. Here's the episode that the post that we just made. And the nice thing is, like, maybe I actually want it to go out next week. I can do that. I can have the post go out on different days if I want to like scatter my posting cadence. And I can always go back, make any edits that I want, and also see previously posted posts. So this is a really nice way to like make sure you're promoting your images, making sure you're doing your recaps, and making sure that everything is going out on the days that you want.
This is such a huge workflow unlock, Jordan. I love that you can basically kind of schedule everything in advance, and then if if you need to be out for a week,
Yeah.
you can probably share the calendar with someone on your team, or if you need someone filling in for you, they can literally just pop in here and see what's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, so I think there is a question in the chat too about sharing. Yeah, so the way that you can share calendars is in in your stuff, there are projects, which are like collections of a bunch of things that you can share. So for example, I did a pop-up shop with a friend. And so we created a project here. So we have like a shared brand and a shared calendar. So that is the way to get shared calendars that like my pal Rose and I can both our pop-up shop is over. So we have no post, but we can both access this calendar. We can both, edit the posts and like both get content up here. So that is great. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, got it. So if I have kind of like a solo show that I'm running on my own, I have my own calendar. I don't need you to see it, but if we had our own podcast where we're
Yeah.
collaborating, we could have like an isolated calendar that we have shared.
Yeah, and it's nice that you can do both in Express. So for example, like, yeah, maybe I have a shared podcast and I want a shared calendar, but then I also have a side business that's just for me. I can have multiple calendars, and in the, managing connections, there's nothing managed here. But like if you have a separate, nothing's connected here. I mean, if you had like, a separate podcast, social, so a separate podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I could connect all of those here. And then on my personal calendar, have my personal or my own business accounts synced. So that's a nice way to be able to do that too.
That's great. So
Yeah.
I think, kind of zooming out, thinking about workflow. So for folks that are using both podcast and Express, so the front half of the workflow starts in podcast, you record in there, you kind of get everything edited down, and then basically you can download, because people have asked about this, can I like share directly to social from podcast? But I think the workflow would be like, get everything polished in podcast, download your final audio, then you could bring that audio into Express, make it look beautiful, add all of these elements, and then schedule it out. And that's kind of the workflow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for example, if you want to create, a full graphic in Express, you absolutely can. But if you just have like a video clip, maybe you have a video podcast and you just want to post it without any editing, you can do that in the calendar as well. You can just add a new post and then drop any content here. So it's easy to add from Express because it's just, in the final steps as the share option. But if you have a bunch of content that you made somewhere else, or maybe it's just photos that don't need any other editing, you can just drop whatever you want and post the same way, which is great. Yeah. So that's a lovely way to be able to share your clips from podcasts for sure.
So cool. And Jordan, you might be getting to this a little bit later on, but you mentioned like, so if I have a bunch of elements that are specific to my podcast, and maybe I have them across different asset managers, different systems, like, is creating a brand the best way to basically move all of that content in and then be able to repurpose from there?
Yeah, I think so. Putting it all in a brand, so you always have like, maybe you want to add your logo to your video clips, or maybe, you want to just like keep track of all of that stuff. I think putting it in a brand or a project, they're very similar. They're very similar options. You could do either, whatever makes sense for you. But yeah, I can just add folders of stuff, files. I can add a library if I already have things in a Creative Cloud library, all to a project or a brand, which is really nice.
Got it. 'Cause that was actually a follow-up question, is like, when would you recommend using a library versus a project versus a brand? But I think you just cleared that up there.
Yeah, they're a little squishy. A brand is basically like just the brand kit itself. So a brand doesn't include like calendars or other things like that. So if you want to kind of build it out more, that's when I would go to projects.
Got it. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and they're all shareable. So they all have this little, everything is shareable. Individual files, brands, projects, you can share all of it, which is great.
Amazing.
Yeah, April in chat is saying they must have upgraded this recently. Yes.
Yeah.
The shared calendar is new, something that we were asked for a whole lot. And so I'm very, very happy that that is available now.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're quick time check. We've got about 15 minutes left. I know we also had Clipmaker.
That's the last thing to show, which is, man, we are right on time. I love when this happens. And yeah, feel free, if you all watching have any other questions, drop them in the chat and we'll answer them in the next 15. But yeah, Clipmaker is something that is newly out of beta in Express. So if it gets a little goofy, it is new. And so definitely give us your feedback. But It's a really nice way to take a long form video, which is great for, especially if you do video podcasts or video interviews behind the scenes, and clip it out into smaller social clips. It's also great the way it works. I'll head to quick actions, video, and clip maker here. But the way it works is that basically, like, the AI will read the transcript. So you can automatically add captions, which is nice because it's captioning your video anyway. And look at your content, try to pick out what it thinks is the most valuable, the most important, and will give you your clips in order of like which clips it thinks are best. So I will drop a video here. This is, to be honest, not like the best example in the world because a lot of my videos are exactly what we're doing today, which is like a lot of screen share. So this would be much better in like a talking head video series, but I'm just going to show you this because it's what I have. And then I'll hit generate clips. We're going to do a little cooking show magic and switch to another tab here because this does take like 20-ish minutes. It's going to look at the video. It's going to go into the transcript, clip it out. And so I have I am going to share the tab with it already finished because we don't have enough time to do that live. Okay, perfect. So here's what it'll look like. The other nice thing is you can like leave Express and come back. You'll get a little notification so you don't have to sit and watch it work. But this just took my 12-ish minute video and clipped it into, I think we have 10 shorter clips. So I can choose to sort by duration, chronology, if I want it to be in order. But I really like the searching by quality rating because this is letting me know, like, this is what we think is the best clip. And like I said, this video isn't, there are much better styles of video that you could use, but I'll just show an example here. Hi, I'm Jordan from Adobe, and I'm excited to show you some of my favorite ways to optimize videos for Reels using Adobe Express. If you're new to Adobe Express, I'll start with so it's interesting. You can see like in the talking head, you know, it clipped into like me, and then for the screen share, it could tell that I wanted the entire screen share. And this looks a little crazy. So like what I'm going to do is open it in the editor, and like I like the blurred background, but with screen share, it doesn't really work for me. So I'll just like make that a solid color. But just to show before I do that, this is what it'll look like. You can test all the clips. If there's one that you're like, oh yeah, this totally didn't, you know, this doesn't make sense, just hit the discard. And this is what our caption options look like. So if you just caption a video from scratch, you'll get all of these different caption options as well. And you can like customize the colors and all types of fun things. So you can really have your captions like match your brand style, which is great. I'll again open this in the editor, and this should look familiar. This is the exact kind of project we had before with, you know, 10 different clips here. I can go into any of them. This is the one that we were just looking at. I'll go to edit timeline so I can see, you know, scrubbing over, there's my captions. And in the video, I can make any further edits that I want. So yeah, for example, like I don't love the way the background looks here. I can just delete that. And now I have a black background, or I could like zoom this in to, you know, exactly what part of the screen that we're looking at. So you have lots of options. This really does work well with like, you know, interview style talking heads, or just, you know, if you just record yourself talking and then you want to like overlay your own graphics, you can do that as well, and it'll keep the audio track here. So yeah, this is a nice way to be able to take your longer clips and like auto create social content. And like I said, going back to pages, we might not want to use all 10, but we have now 10, you know, clips that we can use for Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels or TikToks, and just a huge time saver there because I always want to do this and never actually do it. So this is great.
It's pretty auto magical, the fact that it
Yeah.
can just kind of go in, isolate, these, a handful, or in this case, 10 or so clips that you can share out. And Jordan, I noticed, I think there was like a little tag on some of the videos where it says like top rated, or is that like, is that saying like, I think this is going to perform well on social, or like, yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, it's looking at the transcript and looking at what's on screen, and based on whatever magical algorithm being like, I think this is the most, captivating 30 seconds. So like this is saying something interesting with like a good visual. So yeah, it's
Got it.
doing that for you too, which is really nice, especially I don't know if you feel this way. Like sometimes after I edit a video, I'm like, I don't need to see my face anymore.
All
So
the
it's
time.
nice that it'll just do that for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to like watch yourself and take notes and be like, okay, this part was good. Like come back to this. It just kind of does all that for you, which is great.
So cool. And then similar to just like the projects that we were looking at earlier, can you like download all of these at
Yeah,
once and schedule these out all at once?
absolutely. So
Similar?
I can download all these pages as videos in, whatever resolution that I want. And I can also share this directly to social as well. So this is that was letting me schedule all of them, which I don't want to do. I want to do it one at a time.
Mhm.
You can post carousels, but a video carousel is kind of, that's not really what I want. So yeah, I'll just click into just the one, and oops, it's telling me there's two selected. I'll click into just the one and go over to share to social, and same thing. It'll populate here, and I can use the same caption generator, choose the channels that I want it to go out on, which is really nice.
Amazing. Gosh, that's so handy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're coming up in the last few minutes. So I know there's probably so much more we could spend time on in Express. So for folks that were able to hang around, throw your questions in the chat. We'd love to answer them live. Otherwise, I noticed like with kind of sticking with the clip maker, for
Yeah.
folks that might be a little intimidated by the timeline experience, I feel like this is such a nice balance of like just being able to go in and use the handlebars without having to get overwhelmed by a full-blown timeline. What would you like? What would be your tip, Jordan, for people that are like, this is my first time using an editor like that?
Yeah, the timeline here is really straightforward. So if the kind of bigger video editing software is intimidating, it's really nice. You can show the layer timing here. This only has a few, but yeah, like all your layers are over here. You can move them around how you want. It's really easy to just scroll through, and then like, this is not a good example, but say I want this to start a second in, which is just going to cut off my sentence here. But you can just kind of scroll to like clip things, or right click and split, and then add like really easily add, a transition between. So it's a really straightforward video editing, which was really nice. And to show also, if you're interested in video, like social promo, in addition to all the ways that we showed, which you can take your own content and then turn it into video, Express also has a lot of video templates that you can just hover over and see. Like maybe something like this would be a really nice podcast promo image. So you can use video templates as well, and it'll just give you everything. Like this one has kind of a combination of like animation, like popping onto screen. You can just see how like it's kind of done it for you. And then you can just make any edits that you want, like replace this video with your video, change out the title, change out the colors, all of that stuff, make it shorter or longer. Yeah, it's really, really nice to use. If you want to add like some background music from Adobe stock, you can. You'll have your wonderfully edited video from Adobe Podcast that you can just pop into here and replace. So yeah, it should be pretty easy to use.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love how I love how frictionless it is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And there was someone in the chat. Can we share your QR code
Oh,
one more
yeah,
time?
sure. Let me go into my little, yeah, you can make presentations in Express too, which is very fun. Let me see what's happening here. There we go. Cool.
Nice.
So yeah, here's my little presentation with my QR code. I'm at Jordan Danae Ellis everywhere. I think there's only one of me. Um, happy to, yeah, feel free sincerely to hop into my DMs on any social platform. That is a huge part of my job. So I'm available for questions whenever you may have them.
Awesome. And do you have any additional, like, if you're going to point people to resources on getting started with Express or any events that you have coming up, what would you point them to?
Yeah, the events link for like I have the link in my Instagram link tree, which actually this is going, yeah, this goes to that. So yeah, this has a link to upcoming events. And then to be honest, like I'll post videos, but the Express Learn tab is also a really great resource for exactly whatever you want to get started in. So maybe you want to do some like simple photo editing or some basic video edits. If you want more of like tutorial style, the Learn tab is great for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great that you can kind of browse by topic and
Yeah,
just dive in.
and they're short. They're like 2-minute, 1-minute, 3-minute videos. So like it's not a full course. It's like just, that's the great thing about Express. It's really, most things just take a couple buttons, which is awesome.
Fantastic. And for folks that are using Adobe Podcast, you can get to Express directly from Adobe
Yeah,
Podcast.
that's
You
right.
just jump into the Studio tab, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll get to like the graphic templates, and it'll launch you right into Express. Oh,
And
amazing!
where
Yeah,
do I go?
just go up to the top navigation where it says Tools, and then we'll pop into
Studio.
Studio.
Cool.
Yep. And for folks that haven't used Studio, this is the tool that allows you to record, edit via
Oh
text,
yeah,
and
here's
download.
some
And there's your,
some
yeah,
Express templates
exactly.
right there. Yeah,
Access.
perfect.
So you can access them from there, or you can go directly to express.adobe.com.
Yeah. Yeah, Express is easy to find. So
Fantastic.
feel free to dive in and start playing around.
Awesome. And I know we're coming up on the last couple of minutes here. So Jay, thank you for throwing in the form. We'd love your feedback on today's session. So please share your thoughts on how we can improve future sessions or topics that you're curious about learning about. Today was really just an introduction to Express, and there's so much more I feel like we could learn. Like Jordan, have such a wealth of knowledge of the
We
platform.
could do this all day. So yeah, if you want to see more, definitely let us know what you would like to see, and we can absolutely do this again.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here today with us, Jordan. I feel like there were so many good nuggets, even just like the scheduling. That's just such a huge unlock, I think, especially for like a solo podcaster that's kind of overwhelmed by getting kind of all their ducks in a row. That just is such a time saver.
And it's nice too, like, I don't know if anyone watching can relate to this, but I know like when I was running my podcast, there's so much to do. And so sometimes you're so worried about like getting the content out on time, making sure, you have your episode description, you get it out to all the places that you need, that like actually doing the promotion is like sometimes the last thing that you think of, but it's super important. And that's how people know what's coming out. And you can do recaps like with the clip maker. You can do like I used to have a template for like podcast reviews to be able to share. There's so many things that are really important to share on social. So it helps to just have your calendar. And if your calendar looks very empty, then you'll know it's time to get some posts up there.
Good inspiration to get started. Awesome. Well, we're at the hour. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today. For information, check out podcast.adobe.com or express.adobe.com. And thank you so much for your time, and reach out if you have any questions. Jordan and I are here to help. This is my favorite part of the job. So thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.